When I was a kid, I didn't have many friends. I lived out in the middle of nowhere with my parents, and I lived outside of the school district where I attended school. My parents were also teachers, so they both encouraged me to read and be interested in narratives of all kinds. One of the earliest things I remember having to do with writing is actually writing Star Trek fan fiction about Spock, because Spock's rad. I couldn't write very well yet since I was only about 6, but my mom helped me by working as a scribe and illustrator. It was my first contact with collaboratively produced media, at least on the production side. As I grew older, I became a voracious reader. I was a loner in school. I wasn't very social, and I never was allowed to have other kids over to my house. Books were one of the few ways I could find to get out of my house, really. With a book, I could go anywhere the writer wanted to take me, and I could visit all kinds of worlds without even leaving my sofa. My favorite kinds of books were fantasy, and I devoured just about everything I could get my hands on. Madeline L'Engle was my favorite, especially Many Waters, which made me realize that in fiction, you can play with historical and mythological events to make them your own. Then in 6th grade, on a class trip down to the attached junior-senior high school, I found an anthology book with a Neil Gaiman story in it. It changed my life. Not the story itself, but my introduction to Neil's writing. To this day, the best dream I've ever had is about Neil telling me he thinks I have talent as a writer. Throughout my childhood, my mom also encouraged me. She was always the one to sit and read with me in the evenings, and she homeschooled me for kindergarten before I went to public school for 1st grade. When my 1st grade teacher said that my high reading level was an anomaly and that I would be mediocre later in life, my mom didn't believe her, and instead encouraged my creativity and love of reading. Without her, I wouldn't have been brave enough to prove those kinds of people wrong. Because of all the wonderful experiences I had with writers like Neil Gaiman, Madeline L'Engle, Ursula K. Le Guin, and anyone who wrote a book about dinosaurs or ghosts, I realized fairly early on that I wanted to be some kind of writer as well. These people had an immense amount of power over my young life, molding me into what I am today and setting me down a path that wasn't open to me in elementary or high school. I realized around 8th grade that I wanted to do the same thing for other people that all these wonderful writers had done for me. Inspire, comfort, and empower people to other ways of thinking. It was a goal that started small, but I'm well on my way now.